All right, so we're recording. All right. So, welcome to Empowering Minds Mental Health Podcast, where we will discuss de-escalation and crisis intervention in mental health. Sean is the founder and coordinator of Astrochemistry Consulting. His company offers professional development, training, and coaching sessions in de-escalation and crisis intervention for frontline workers. Excuse the background noise.
I
The
don't, I
training
don't.
classes The training classes are geared towards better serving those in emotional and mental wellness distress. Individuals are taught how to de-escalate those experiencing an emotional or mental wellness crisis humanly with personal and professional interactions. Sean is also the author of the eBook, It Isn't About You, where he gives detailed information on crisis intervention training. Well, welcome to the show today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, and thank you for accepting my invite.
No, I'm grateful for the platform because I have an idea and I have a message to share, and it's for everyone. It's not for any particular group. This is a very human thing
Hmm.
that I'm sharing for all humans. There's almost 8 billion people on this planet,
Hmm.
and we're all experiencing something, but
Absolutely.
we feel so divided right now, and I don't want to contribute to that division. I don't
Hmm.
feel like I was put here for that, if that makes sense.
It does. Good. I'm glad you accepted my invite. So, we're just going to go into some questions. How did you get into de-escalation and crisis communication training?
Well, I used to be a police officer. I was a patrol officer. And like my first year, when you're out of the academy, they send you to all of these classes and interview and interrogation, just things to put in your tool belt to help you out
Hmm.
as a frontline worker. Um, I went to a crisis intervention training class and I fell in love with it. And I really, really liked it. There were scenario role plays, and I learned a lot about the types of people that I would encounter because it was early on when I first became a patrol officer. And at that time, I wasn't in a position to really take advantage of that because I was going through some what I called a perfect storm in my life at that point. I went through a divorce, and my father was declining, that kind of thing, all within a 2 year period. Um, but I came back, and the guy that gave me the opportunity, I came back as a certified coach. And I have a background in acting, so sometimes I was an actor, but I just really loved helping people.
Hmm.
I loved helping, showing others that this person is in crisis, and everything's not about a ticket or a summons. You know,
Uh-huh.
you know, everything isn't about, well, okay, yeah, they're not compliant, but are you able to identify the signs of someone having a schizophrenic episode? Do you
Hmm.
know the difference between delusion and hallucinations? And they're two completely different
Yeah.
things, that kind of thing. So, and I learned a lot about myself going through all of that as I was learning. So I don't really think people should dedicate and give their lives to something they don't love. Our
Hmm.
time here on this pale blue dot is very finite. We're not here that long, and I don't want to spend it fighting with everybody else. You know,
Hmm.
so I have a message. It's very much we are the world driven. you
Yeah.
know, so that's how I got into that, and I just kind of stayed there. And when I wasn't a police officer, I then became a program manager for um, private hospitals, overseeing security departments.
Hmm.
That's where it really, really came into play because now you have this opportunity to show people underneath you, hey, it's not personal. This person has dementia. They're not going to remember what they're going to do in the next minute. This
Hmm.
is how you look for it. And a lot of it is just patience because we tend to take everything personally.
Hmm.
Very human thing to do. But it's also a very human thing to be curious and understand, and you have to have thick skin if you're going to be a frontline worker. I've always
Yeah.
said that. You can't if you're gonna be if you if somebody calls you out of your name and you're ready to burn it all down, you're probably in the wrong profession, and that's for any of
Hmm.
us.
Mm-hmm.
because they don't know you. They just know you in that moment, but they don't know you.
Right.
And we always react versus slowing down to understand.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I got into writing the book, the more I was like, wait a minute, this is really something for everyone. Everyone can learn from this.
Mm-hmm.
So I teach it to my two boys. I have two boys, and they're each on the spectrum, different ends. You know, I've even been told maybe I'm on the spectrum, and it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But now I know how to deal with it. And sometimes you take a step back, and you have to just, okay, let me see what's going on here.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you said that because the crisis intervention training is something that I'm starting to see more often in the area where I live, with first responders.
Mhm.
And then there was one time I was in the ER. I guess it's been about a year, maybe 2 years ago,
Mhm.
and this young man, he definitely had a mental health episode, and
Mhm.
so it was like everybody was like trying to help him, like the general public, but it increased whatever he was going through,
Yeah, yeah.
and they called the crisis team, and it de-escalated.
Yep.
It calmed him down. So I guess just the human nature in people, they wanted to help, but at that
But
time,
yeah, but you have to understand what you're stepping into,
right?
because sometimes you can agitate it,
Yep, and that's what happened.
and you have to have the emotional intelligence to know, okay, I need to tap out. They're not responding to me.
Mhm,
Or hey, if it's just two spouses, hey, and it escalates, hey, okay, I'm gonna step back. Let's just give each other a minute. Because
mhm,
typically, the old saying, like if you're in an argument, and I learned this years ago. If you're in an argument, the first one to yell loses the argument. And people tend to yell because they want to be heard
yeah,
versus just understanding. Well, I'm going to talk louder than you, or
yep,
you know what I mean? It's
mhm,
just, and then coming from certain communities, that's all we knew.
yep,
Black and brown communities, that's all we knew.
yep,
And that doesn't mean it's right. So we got a chance here to kind of change the narrative. We got a chance here to educate our children and grandchildren and
mhm,
say, okay, hey, just because Pop responded like this doesn't mean it was the right way.
right,
We all have a right to evolve, you know.
mhm, absolutely. All right, so in your career, what what are the most or what is the most important lesson that you've learned over time?
That's a good one. Probably to forgive myself and give myself grace
Yeah,
for things that didn't go right.
mhm,
Um, I've beat myself up over a myriad of things in the last 7 years, and it gets heavy. And you fight depression, you have bouts with suicide, all kinds of things, right?
mhm,
But you have to give yourself grace.
mhm,
I just posted a video about giving yourself grace on my Instagram
mhm,
yesterday. Hey, things are going to go wrong, but get back up, forgive yourself, and keep going.
mhm,
Ain't nobody getting out of here alive, and ain't nobody getting out of here clean, unscathed. So
yeah.
forgive yourself and keep going.
Yeah, and that's something I had to learn over time. So
Yeah.
with the crisis intervention training, it really started for me. I worked at a total EC school, exceptional children. And so that's where I kind of learned about the training. And so there was a student who, had a behavior and the training automatically kicked in. But
Hmm.
it didn't quite go right, and I beat myself up because I felt like I escalated the issue a little bit more, and I beat myself up for a long, long time.
But you
But like
weren't
you said,
training. You didn't know though, right? You didn't know how to approach that.
no.
You're just being a good soul,
Mhm.
right? Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had to give myself grace, and that training it is very beneficial because you really never know where
Right.
someone can have an episode. So it is good to
Right.
have that training, as well as what is it called? The mental health first aid. I have that
Yeah.
training too. So I kind of use the two of them together.
Yeah. Now,
And
CIT, crisis intervention training,
mm-hmm,
is actually created for law enforcement usage.
mm-hmm,
Or those like I think they have a course for because I'm a coordinator. I'm the founder of my
Uh-huh.
company, and I'm a coordinator.
Hmm.
So I have coaches, I have actors, I do a needs analysis. I may hire someone with
Okay.
a specific specialty in that particular field, depending on the client.
Hmm.
Um, but you can't do any of that if you don't know the needs, if you don't do a needs analysis and know what they're looking for.
That's right.
Like I even have like a course for new hires, people who deal with the public. And
Hmm.
it's not, you can't get CIT certified. That's a 40-hour class and that's a week long. But I still offer classes on people say, hey, this is what you want to look for. This is what you should do. And
Hmm.
it's not like telling people to become something else. We're just giving you the tools to maneuver your job better.
Yeah.
So if you're in customer service and you're on the phone and you're getting yelled at, I mean, that doesn't, I know it's not right, but you don't have to react the way they think you're going to react. Don't give
Hmm.
that. Everybody's allowed to be human. Let them get it off. Sometimes it may
Yeah.
take a little longer. But
Yep.
here's the thing. So look, think of this, okay? What is the cost to the brand and the business if you have employees that aren't trained in this skill at all?
Hmm.
Now the customer's pissed off, the employee's pissed off because they don't feel supported
Hmm.
because the person over them is telling them where you offended a client. Now they don't feel heard, but nobody was trained. They quit. Now you got to spend the money to pay somebody to work overtime to fill that slot while you're looking for. I mean, it's the financial loss to the brand and everything and staffing.
Hmm.
It can be way more than a lot of businesses want to put out.
Yeah.
But here's the call to action. Do you have the tools to get in the front of it and say, hey, Sean, I'd like to talk to you about what's going on. We have people who do home care.
Hmm.
They're, they don't know how to react to people with schizophrenia who are older, people with
Hmm.
dementia. And that's where we come in. So I don't deal directly with patients like that.
Hmm.
I deal with frontline workers, whether it's nursing home people,
Uh-huh.
people who are on the phone with, doing customer service for energy company or something, or
Hmm.
there's a lot of opportunity for growth. This is really, really needed right now in healthcare because
Oh yeah.
um, healthcare, patients have become more violent towards staff,
Hmm.
which is not okay. But
Hmm.
also, you know, do we teach staff is there a way to teach healthcare staff a better
Yeah.
bedside manner in patients
Hmm.
versus them going out and teaching getting taught a course on how to become more physical? I don't know any healthcare worker that wants to fight patients, and they shouldn't have to take a class to do that. I've said it once, I stand by it. Um, I'm willing to take it to the grave. It all starts with bedside manner and how you talk to people. And sometimes
Absolutely.
validating you validating emotion doesn't mean you agree with them. It just means, hey, I hear you. Hey, you're in a really, really bad place. What can I do? Sometimes they just want
Yeah.
somebody to listen to them.
Yep.
Life is changing. You got somebody in the hospital, something's going on, and you're there for 8 or 10 or 12 hours. And it's okay to let people feel. That's a very human thing to do.
Hmm.
Now, I'm gonna bring something up. What I have noticed was in the two hospitals that I worked in recently,
Hmm.
there's been a bit of there's been a bit of and I'm trying to think of how to word this. I've seen a difference in how certain staff members react to various patients depending on the demographic,
Mm.
whether it was ethnicity, whether it's age, whether it's gender. Um, and really, if you're going to get into being a frontline worker, all that goes out the window.
Yep.
Either you're going to love everybody, and if you can't love everybody, get your ass out of that profession and let somebody else do it.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
I stand by that because I've seen it, I've lived it, I've seen it. I've
Yeah.
seen two different demographics have a breakdown, and same hospital staff reacted totally different to each of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You,
That
you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. And it does,
Okay.
I consider that type of work is like a special calling. And if
Mhm.
you're not there for it, you're right. You might want to look at a different career choice.
Yeah,
You have to have the heart for it. Can't really be there for the financial piece of it. I mean, yes, that's important, but you
right.
have to have the heart. Your heart has to be there.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. If
Yeah.
you can't, it's like I tell people, like, so I was recently a program manager
Hmm.
overseeing the security department. And I've told like the sergeants under me, I said, hey, seriously, if you're gonna get into leadership, you gotta love everybody.
Yeah.
And about what you think they should do. They're not obligated to fit into the mold that you grew up with,
Absolutely.
but you gotta love everybody and make sure everybody gets home safe. I was really big on that.
Hmm.
Another thing is, um, you don't have to like everybody, but you gotta love everybody. There's a
Yeah.
difference,
Yeah.
you know. It's kind of like our kids sometimes. We will always love our kids, but sometimes you got two teenagers,
Yeah.
you don't like them sometimes. You're like, no, just leave me alone for a minute,
Right.
you know, you know, or even your spouse, I don't know if you're married or been married. I was married for 14 years, way, way back when. Um, and we didn't like each other sometimes. That's just how it goes. But you
Absolutely.
gotta love. You gotta
Gotta love.
that's gotta be the foundation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I'm just listening to you say some things. I want to ask you this question.
Ask me anything you want.
What's one thing about your job or field of expertise that almost no one agrees with you about?
That is a great question. I think it all goes back to what I just said.
Hmm.
People have implicit biases.
Yeah.
And if you can't overcome that, you shouldn't be being a frontline worker. I
Yeah.
was a patrol officer and I was like, I loved being a cop, and I'm not even gonna lie to you. That's one of the best jobs I ever had.
Hmm.
And I just quit. I quit. Um, I didn't quit because of the community. I didn't quit because of other officers. I quit because one of my superiors, who's no longer there at the time, had openly had implicit biases,
Mm.
and it made me really uncomfortable. And I
Hmm.
and I started feeling like I was being treated differently. And I didn't quit and go to another agency. I just left the entire law enforcement profession because I was like, well, if it's like this here, what? I mean, and I'm who I am,
Hmm.
middle-aged man of color. I don't see it getting any better out there. And so I left.
So when you left, is that when you kind of got into the training and developing your own company and stuff?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I
Gotcha.
continued to help out another guy who got me into it. And the
Okay.
more I did it with him, the more I really, really liked it, and I wanted to like learn everything about it,
Hmm.
you know, because I was like, I really like this. But I always felt there we can expand it more,
Oh
you
yeah.
know. So like the crisis intervention training certification class for students that we were teaching to students,
Hmm.
that's a 40-hour class for law enforcement, geared towards law enforcement.
Hmm.
But if you're doing a communication, de-escalation, and um, type of thing, but you don't call it that, and people still need that, that's a need that needs to be filled. You know,
Hmm.
one of the biggest things is when you're doing something like this, the students need to buy into it. And you have
Yeah.
to be genuine. You have to be genuine because no one wants to sit in a class for 3 or 4 days being told you better do this. Nobody's gonna listen.
Mm-mm.
But if it's interactive and it's all inclusive and it's like, hey, you need to understand people come from various backgrounds,
Hmm.
and just because someone comes from a different background than you doesn't mean they're any better or worse than you. So the human element of being in law enforcement got lost 30 years ago when they had to become more
Mm.
tactical because criminals became more tactical. So they had to get more tactical.
Hmm.
But that humane thing really needs to come back. A
Oh
lot
yeah.
of lives have been lost and changed because,
Yeah.
you know, a gunshot, overreacting,
Hmm.
because we take it personally. you know, and it's bad for the officers too, because like I said, I used to be an officer, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't just the victim and their family. Okay, so now you're on leave and you
Yeah.
may or may not be getting paid and
Mm-hmm.
can't talk about it because you're on leave and your family's affected. I mean, it's a whole, excuse my French, but it becomes a whole shit show. But I think just reminding people that you're human
Yeah.
and I'm human and allow people to be human. That doesn't mean forego your safety. That doesn't mean you're any less or more than them. It just means another human is in crisis
Yeah.
and they need you right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why that's so hard for people, you know?
Yeah, that is true. And like you say, it's all about your approach.
Yeah.
Typically, if you approach people in love and you're showing that you're trying to help them, that kind of helps the situation. Or sometimes, like you say, sometimes people just want to talk and just get it off their chest.
And it's made a huge difference,
Yep,
you
absolutely.
know? Now, let's talk about something else, okay? Because I don't think you're going to expect to go in this direction, but it's going to benefit your listeners. You can't help others if you're not taking care of yourself.
Self-care. You got to.
And it's thrown out there flippantly. Like you see it on Instagram and you know, oh, I'm self-care. I went to the beach and it looks good. And everybody looks good on social media.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes you kind of wonder, the better this person is making it look, are they that much more broken on the inside? And you never hear
Yeah.
about that. You know, how
Yeah.
many influencers have we lost to suicide? And you
Yes.
never knew because when you look at what's going on their page, and it's like, oh man, they're living a life and this
Mm-hmm.
and that. But on the inside, they're drowning.
Yep.
Nobody threw them a buoy. We're just looking at these people. And some people look at them like, well, you think you better than me. And other people are looking at them like, man, they really got their shit together. But on the inside,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people are drowning,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Mm-hmm.
So like it goes back to that being human thing, you know. So my big thing is I can share this. So I told you I had a 2-year period where I went through a divorce. My father was declining,
Mm-hmm.
and I became a police officer. This happened all in my mid 40s. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I was not taking care of myself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Here's what one of the things that got me back on track. Okay. I literally had to go back to things that made me happy when I was a little boy. I went back to doing everything I liked as a little boy. I'm a big science guy.
I can't hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, gotcha.
Okay. Yeah, so I love all this stuff, you know, comic books and sci-fi monster movies and
Mm-hmm.
singing, you know, and I went back to all of that for me.
Yeah.
You know, I did it for me. I was doing karaoke nights at my cigar bar that I was frequenting and because it made me feel good, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's got to start somewhere. I love to
Yeah.
cook. I threw myself into that, got my kids involved in it.
Mm-hmm.
They were younger then, but you gotta start somewhere. Because if you carry a firearm, you're not taking care of yourself, and you encounter somebody who's having a an episode or a crisis, and they really need help, and but you're not taking care of yourself,
Mm-hmm.
it could end very badly.
Absolutely.
I mean, how many use of force reports do you need to do before you figure out, hey, wait a minute, maybe it's my bedside manner,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. You're
you know,
right. You're right. Oh my, you're so right. Just taking it back to the basics. So I've been in mental health 19 years, right?
yeah,
And so recently, I spoke with my managers and stuff, and I was like, you know what? Can y'all take me off the schedule for about 2 to 3 weeks? Because in order for me to be more effective to my clients, I need to pour into to me because I'm feeling like I'm about to go through some burnout.
yeah, yeah,
So to be a more effective me, I have to take some time. And so I'm glad that my job allows me to do that, just to take some time to,
Yeah.
yeah, like you say, just pour back into the basics. I mean, I love to write. Sometimes I'll just get in my car sometime and just take a scenic route and just drive, and that's like the best thing ever. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you have to
My
pour back into yourself.
therapist, so I was seeing a therapist for a long time, on
Hmm.
and off as I needed to.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, he told me it's okay for you to set boundaries to protect yourself,
Yep.
even if other people are uncomfortable.
Hmm.
Think about that. That doesn't mean you're an asshole. It doesn't mean you're being mean. It just means, hey, I can't really deal with this right now. I
Yeah.
need to revisit this, or give me some time to figure this out.
Hmm.
You have every right to do that. And that's one thing. Like I had trouble setting boundaries for myself.
Me too.
And I got hurt a lot emotionally, and I took a lot personally.
Hmm.
You know, I did. A lot of what I've gone through in the last 7 years that I could control was my own fault. And I own it. I have to own it. I'm
Yeah.
too old. I'm too old to not be who I am,
Yeah.
you know. But if I can get, like, I have a 16 and 13-year-old, both boys.
Hmm.
If I can teach them these lessons way sooner than I learned them,
Yeah.
hey, as a dad, I'm golden,
That's good.
you know.
Hmm.
So
Absolutely. Okay. Well, my last question for you. So, in the introduction, I talked about your book. It isn't about you, and you discuss in that book about de-escalation and crisis management. So, what inspired you to start writing this book, and where can listeners find you through your social media, and how could they purchase your book or your materials that you have?
okay. So I'm still working on the book. Um, what inspired me to do the book was the book started as a how-to,
Mm-hmm.
and in the first draft, the more I wrote, um, the more I realized this is way more than a how-to book, and um, it was way more than a how-to book. And I really had to say, okay, if this is the book that I have in me that I've been waiting my whole life to write, I got to be authentic. So
Yeah.
it's become partly like a memoir, but
Mm-hmm.
also lessons from other people. You know, nobody wants to sit up and hear me talk about me for like 300 pages. You know, but there's other people that have experienced this, and there's something for everybody to learn. So I got this phrase, right? I got this phrase. Uh, everything ain't for everybody, but there's something for everyone.
Everybody. Yeah.
You know, and that's how I approach things. You
Mm-hmm.
know, if you're easily offended, or hey, just keep scrolling. That message isn't for you,
Yeah.
you know,
That's it.
unless somebody lacks accountability. That's a whole different podcast.
Right.
So you can find me on Instagram at astrochemistry_LLC. I am on Twitter at ACTC, I think ACTC Colorado. And then I have my webpage,
Mm-hmm.
ACTC, Astrochemistry Training and Coaching. So it's ACTC11.com.
Gotcha. Okay.
My phone number is 303 618 9331.
Okay. And I think I have some of your information too, through podcasters. And so if you don't mind, when I upload this to YouTube, I'm going to put that information there for viewers to come back in case they want to reach out to you
Absolutely.
about the book, or maybe becoming a trainer, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
And I'm on LinkedIn too.
Oh, LinkedIn too. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So get that
Oh,
information.
and I'm on Patreon. So I'm ready to start pushing content out on that.
Okay.
But
That's
yeah, it's just, I found something that I love, and this is my footing.
mm-hmm.
And I enjoy sharing it. That's the biggest thing,
Yeah.
you know. And if it doesn't resonate with somebody, that's okay.
Yeah.
Maybe it will down the line. Maybe you haven't reached that point in your journey where you need it.
Mm-hmm.
It's there.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Okay. All
Thank
right.
you.
So thank you again for coming on. Maybe, I don't know, maybe we'll do another interview sometime in the future.
I
But
would love to.
Absolutely. I'll be in contact with you soon with your information so you can share it on your platforms.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Thank you for
Bye-bye.
coming on. Take care. Bye-bye.